afternoon to you. Hope your Friday is off to a great start. Thanks for joining Sports for CLE. I'm Dave Bacon. Plenty to talk about. We'll hear from Terry Francona as the Indians announce their position player cuts to get ready for the regular season, which starts Thursday in Detroit. Also, Andre Drummond indeed bought out by the Cavs, but we're going to talk plenty of Browns. And the Browns, Rashard Higgins, who re-signed with the Browns for a little bit less than top dollar, explained his thinking and why he wanted to return to be one of Baker Mayfield's weapons.
I wanted to be, let's say that. I knew where I wanted to be, and it was obviously a lot of teams hitting on me, and I had decisions, but why not be a Cleveland Brown, I feel like all the pieces to the puzzle is in place, and why not? We just made a historic run, something that hasn't been done in 20 years, something like that. And it's just like going to another team. How is that really benefiting me? Obviously for the money, you can say that, but the cap is down, to go somewhere for another million, another 2 million, then you start over with a whole nother quarterback. Then you start over with a whole new playbook. And it's just like, what in another team would you be looking for? You get what I'm saying? We just made a playoff run. Got everything that I need here as a Cleveland Browns. So it's just like, why not?
Rashard Higgins knew what made him happy. He was happy being a Brown. And he also realized that Browns fans, he's become a little bit of a fan favorite for the Browns. And he definitely appreciates that from the fans.
I don't know if there is a better fan base. When my decision, did the fans have an impact on it? I can say yeah. Obviously, I love our fans. They love me. And, at the end of the day, this is somewhere that I want to be. So, honestly, it was a no-brainer for me weighing my options, bro. So here I am. The fans still love me. I think they'll love me regardless if I go anywhere. So I'm just excited to be a Brown, and they are too.
Rashard Higgins, happy to be back as a Brown. We're going to talk plenty of Browns. Jeff Risdon from BrownsWire.com will join us later in the show. Right now, we welcome in Mac Robinson from 92.3 The Fan and the Browns Brawl podcast. Mac, appreciate it. What about Rashard Higgins? That's a guy that has a little bit of a chemistry with Baker Mayfield, and, it sounded like Cleveland feels like home to him.
Yeah, and especially to, he was in that first draft from Sashi Brown back in 2016. He's been cut by the team, been brought back by the team. He's really grown his entire career here in Cleveland. And on top of that, he's always had that hardworking attitude that, really endears himself to Cleveland fans. And on top of that, you see the way that he's been able to, like you said, form that chemistry with Baker Mayfield that he's been able to have and really has had since Baker came to the team in 2018. And you've really seen that connection between those two from the jump. So, it's a perfect fit from all parties' perspective.
Yeah, and he was asked about, Odell's coming back. Are you worried about that? And he basically said football tends to take care of itself. The other thing about him, even when he was in the quote-unquote doghouse, Freddie Kitchens, he just seemed to make big plays. Anytime you put him on the field, he seems to come up with, crucial third down catch, touchdown catch, those kind of things. And when you're talking about a third receiver that does that, there's a little bit of value to that, I think, for the team.
Yeah, and I would say this. I almost liken it to a great role player on a good playoff team that you see in the NBA, where you see a lot of those guys where they might not necessarily make the biggest impact on those middling teams or those teams that are rebuilding, but all of a sudden you put them on those playoff runs, a Tristan Thompson type, where you have those guys be able to make those big plays that you need and be able to, do the little things that you need and make those big plays that end up, creating that win and, giving you that extra push to get you that victory. So Rashard Higgins has been that for Cleveland and more. And especially too, being able to endear himself to the fans and being able to, really do everything that he's been asked of in his time in Cleveland. He's done a phenomenal job.
Well, the roster upgrade by Andrew Berry and crew has been very well received, both locally and nationally. And this is coming from Mike Clay, and Mike is an NFL prognosticator from ESPN. And you see, way too early, Super Bowl prediction: Buccaneers and the Browns, and then he says, "Yeah, I said it." Mike Clay from NFL, from ESPN and NFL. Are you buying it?
I mean, with the additions that they've had, you can't help but buy it. You add in their top safety, one of the top safeties in the league, and John Johnson III. You add him into the mix. Grant Delpit coming back healthy. Last season, you saw the offense really kind of getting together in that last 8 games, and especially in the postseason. And if Andy Reid goes ahead and punts on that 4th down, or if they get a stop on 3rd down and stop, that Chiefs offense, all of a sudden we're talking about a different story here. Possibly you're talking about a different team that's going into the Super Bowl. So for the Cleveland Browns, I really don't think it's that far off. Now, mind you, after dealing with this team for so many years, I couldn't help but have to read that over a few times and make sure I'm reading it correctly. But at the same time, I do think that it's not that far off. I really do. And I think that this team, especially the defense, has come so far from where it was last season. And now with the offense, you get another year, and you actually should get a full off season to implement your offense if you're Kevin Stefanski, to expand upon what you're able to do with Baker Mayfield and those offensive weapons, get Odell back. All of a sudden, you really can get something cooking here for next season.
The other thing that Clay had tweeted earlier before that tweet was that, and I think the way he meant it was the supporting cast around Baker Mayfield and the Browns roster is the best in the NFL. So if you're not looking at exclusively those elite quarterbacks, the Browns have the best roster in the NFL, and it's very hard to argue that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, you look at just offensively. You look at Nick Chubb, one of the top running backs in the game, obviously the best duo by far between him and Kareem Hunt. And then you get Odell back, you get Jarvis Landry, and pretty much the best offensive line in the NFL last season was the Cleveland Browns. And the biggest thing that was holding them back was that defense. All of a sudden, you add in nothing but upgrades so far for Andrew Berry. All of a sudden, then, your biggest weakness, again, last season was the offensive line, turned it into one of the best. He could be doing it again, turning one of the weakest defenses into one of the strengths for this team going into next season with the defense. You can't help but be happy for Baker Mayfield at that point.
Yeah, without question. Mac and I are going to take a quick time out. On the other side of break, we'll take a look at what the Browns might do at number 26 in the first round. We'll also talk a little bit more about Jadeveon Clowney. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Tri-C is here for you. Now more than ever, you need a post-secondary education. So I encourage you to start your journey here at Tri-C. The majority of classes will take place online, but we've added a variety of formats to meet your learning needs, and we've taken many steps to keep you safe on campus. Whether you're ready to get started or your four-year plans have changed, Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Well, hello everyone. Let me tell you a little bit about Browns Football Insider. For only $3.99 a month, you can get text sent right to your phone each day from me, Dan Lobby, Scott Pasco, and Ellis Williams. In addition to that, you'll receive a Football Insider newsletter every day with special things from us, things that you won't see anywhere else on the site. You'll get breaking news, analysis, features, film breakdown, and things like that. Texting us directly gives you a great chance to cut through the clutter of Facebook, Twitter, other social media, and avoid the trolls. Also, it's the only way to get your questions on the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. So why should you sign up? Try a 14-day free trial. You can cancel at any time. All it takes is one text, but you won't want to cancel. We have hundreds of subscribers join us over the last year. They love it and have stayed with us. We're seeing the Football Insider community grow every week, and it's only $3.99 a month, which is less than 14 cents a day. What I like most about Football Insider is the opportunity to connect with you one-on-one and really communicate with you. So how can you become a Football Insider? You can click on cleveland.com/Browns, the blue banner at the top of the page. Or easier yet, text me at 216-208-3965. Again, that's 216-208-3965.
Welcome back to Sports4CLE. We continue to talk Browns football. Let's welcome back in Mac Robinson from the Browns Brawl podcast, as well as 92.3 The Fan. And Mac, when you look at it, first round, 26th pick, what do you think? Where do you think the Browns are going? Are you looking edge, cornerback, linebacker? What are your thoughts?
So I think that with the addition of Anthony Walker, I pretty much would rule out, outside of Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah from Notre Dame, or maybe Jadeveon Clowney from Tulsa, I would pretty much rule out linebacker. I'm pretty much focusing on edge rusher, again, depending on who they add in free agency, as well as cornerback. Now, I would also add another veteran at both of those positions, but those are the two positions that I'm focusing on if I'm Andrew Berry at 26.
With what he's done in free agency, is the beauty of it that, you know, he can really pick somebody that he likes at either one of those. I mean, he can literally say, I like this guy. It doesn't necessarily matter what position he plays.
Right, and that's the beauty of free agency. So the way that people in the league take a look at free agency and compare that to the draft is that free agency is meant to be for your current need. So especially with what Andrew Berry has done, you really see that in practice. But the draft is mainly for your future planning. So if you have a position that could be coming up in the future, or you might have somebody whose contract is expiring, or a veteran at a position, you might be looking to replace them in the draft and building the rest of your team and the future of your team through the draft. So that's why you see Andrew Berry attacking needs there. And at this point now, with the way that he's handled free agency, you're pretty much looking at best player available for the most part at 26.
When you look at the way that Andrew Berry has operated in this front office, would it, and I know where this is going, would it surprise you at all if they identify somebody 4 or 5 spots up and they say, really like him, let's trade up and go get him?
Now, this is the beauty of Andrew Berry and the way that he's handled things. He was there with Sashi Brown initially, where everybody talks about the trade down, but he also was there with John Dorsey, and you saw the aggressiveness. Andrew Berry has shown in free agency, at least last year and this year, and at least the attempts to get Jadeveon Clowney last year as well, he can show the aggressiveness where if he feels like he needs to add a player, or he feels like a player is a perfect fit, he's not afraid to go out there and get the guy. So it would not shock me if they go ahead and, let's say J.C. Horn, for instance, cornerback out of South Carolina. If they go ahead and identify that this is the perfect player that we want opposite of Denzel Ward, it wouldn't shock me if they go ahead, get aggressive, try to move up in the draft just to ensure that they get their top player at that position.
And remember, they have that extra third-round pick, and I don't think they would pair anything higher than that extra third-round pick. I don't think they're getting rid of their first or their second to move up, but putting a third-round pick out there to move up and get a guy they really like, I think that's realistic.
I would tend to agree, to be honest. And especially with Andrew Berry, you know, with the way that this team is now built, you're not necessarily having to worry about filling as many needs, but also keeping in mind your future picks. I don't see them moving a first-round pick. I don't think that's realistic. But it wouldn't shock me if they go ahead, maybe pair a future second or maybe a future third at that point. And you can see them go ahead and maneuver in the drafts after that to go ahead and recoup some of those picks. So I think that Andrew Berry, I could see him getting aggressive. I can see him moving up and trading for somebody at a position that they find extremely valuable, or depending on who's falling, maybe going ahead and scooping up one of those players that might be falling a little too far. Maybe it's a receiver that they want to go ahead and get, and dealing with those future contracts of the Odell Beckham, of Jarvis Landry, maybe going ahead and seeing if you can save a little bit of money there and going ahead and investing into other positions down the line. And that's kind of the balance that you're going to see Andrew Berry trying to play, as well as being aggressive when it comes to the draft.
Now, the word was Jadeveon Clowney in town talking to the Browns face-to-face meeting. We had heard about Jadeveon Clowney. It kind of died down when they signed McKinley. Some people moved on from that. Are you at all surprised that Clowney is still on their radar?
Not in the slightest. Out of anything, Andrew Berry has shown, especially with Takk McKinley, that when it comes to his guys, he will not be deterred. So Takk McKinley was somebody that they went ahead and claimed 4 times last season, and were finally able to land him this offseason. Last year, they went after Clowney multiple times and with multiple offers. Obviously, there was the report from Ian Rappaport about the $50+ million offer that they offered him last season, which he ended up taking the 1 year with Tennessee. Now, he's probably going to come a little bit cheaper than that. I don't necessarily know if there's going to be a multi-year deal, but it would not shock me if they go ahead and try to put Clowney out opposite of Myles Garrett, mainly because he's that run stuffer that you like to see opposite of Myles that they've really been targeting. You saw that with Olivier Vernon last year as well in the last couple years. It really wouldn't shock me if they bring in Jadeveon Clowney. And at that point, you can mix in Takk McKinley, and you can go ahead and have versatile players. Clowney is somebody who, in his time in Houston, not only was on the edge as a outside linebacker, defensive end type, they also were able to kick him inside in those NASCAR packages to, add in more speed rushers along that defensive line. So it adds a lot more versatility to the overall defensive front. So it really wouldn't shock me, and it doesn't shock me, that Andrew Berry is going once again at Clowney.
Yeah, the other guy that's still out there, Melvin Ingram, is that somebody you think they're looking at kicking the tires on as well?
I think Andrew Berry is looking at everybody and anybody pretty much when it comes to veterans and those defensive upgrades. I think that Melvin Ingram is a solid veteran. I think that he can still get after the passer. And, again, depending on the price, if the price is right, it wouldn't shock me to see them go in on that. And at that point, you can go ahead, bring in another draftee and mix in between him, Takk McKinley. You mix in Ingram. He's that veteran type that you can go ahead and have some of these guys learn under as well. So I really wouldn't be shocked if they would go after Melvin Ingram in addition to Clowney, depending on, the way that the money is going to be for some of these players.
Is it critical? Maybe critical is a little too strong. You think it's important to get another veteran defensive edge guy to pair with Myles Garrett and Takk McKinley?
I think so. When it comes to Takk McKinley, I look at him as a lottery type of, basically like a scratch-off ticket for you. If you're able to get anything out of him this season, fantastic. If not, it was really a low-cost signing. You really don't miss out much. But when it comes to some of these players that you're going to be dealing with, if I'm worrying about taking a starter at defensive end at 26, all of a sudden, not only do I have to take this guy, or do I have to focus on the position, I'm also going to be thrust into starting this player. So for me, I look at bringing in the edge, at that point, bringing in a veteran, I should say. Then that gives you a little bit more flexibility. You can be a little more patient with some of these guys. And at that point, even if you miss out on an edge, at least you have a starter who has starting experience that you can kind of lean on as you mix and match with some of the guys as your depth.
Mac Robinson from the Browns Brawl podcast, as well as 92.3 The Fan. As always, Mac, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Mac Robinson. Time for us to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we will talk some Indians roster moves. We will hear from Terry Francona, let you know who the starting first baseman and who the starting center fielder will be for the Indians this year. Sports4CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art BetAmerica kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions, or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
We're living in uncertain times, but you don't have to put your future on hold. At Tri-C, you can move ahead while staying safe and saving money. The majority of classes will take place online, but we've added a variety of formats to meet your learning needs, and we've taken many steps to keep you safe on campus. Whether you're ready to get started or your four-year plans have changed, check out Tri-C's programs and resources, because Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Do you like Ohio State football? Would you like to get information from me, Doug Maurice, about Ohio State football without having to look at my face? We have got the plan for you. Become an Ohio State text subscriber through cleveland.com. You send a text, 614-350-3315. What do you get? 2, 3, 4 texts right in your phone every day about Ohio State football. Inside information, polls, voting, all kinds of things. You can be on our podcast. We take text subscriber questions on our Buckeye Talk podcast every week. If you really want to be involved with Ohio State football, in season or out of season, become an Ohio State text subscriber from cleveland.com. Send a text to 614-350-3315. 14-day free trial. What do you have to lose? $3.99 a month after that. 614-350-3315. I'll see you in your phone.
We talked to Blake Parker this morning and informed him that he was not going to be on the team, along with Bradley Zimmer, Anthony Gose, Kyle Nelson, and Bobby Bradley. We talked to Oliver Perez, Chang, and Bowers and informed them that they were on the team.
Continues, that is Terry Francona announcing that the Indians have decided their player position moves to start the season. So we'll break these down one by one. First base goes to Jake Bowers over Bobby Bradley. Bobby Bradley had a really good spring, the difference being Bobby Bradley had an option left, meaning they could send him to the alternate site. Jake Bowers was out of options, means if the Indians tried to send him somewhere, he would have to clear waivers. And the Indians weren't ready to risk losing Jake Bowers. Want to get a better look at him with some at-bats that matter.
It was a lot of conversations for sure. And I think the biggest thing is if Jake doesn't make the club, it's irreversible. You know, and we told Bobby came in and did a really good job. And we wanted to be careful that we didn't just say, Bobby, go work on this, go work on that, because he did his share. We just felt like the reversible and irreversible decisions, Jake's done enough. We need to see him play. He took it like a pro. And I don't think that's altogether surprising because he is maturing, and it's exciting to watch young guys as they mature. You know, we've talked about the maturation process with his body and, you know, in his baseball play, but we saw it also when he got some news he didn't want to hear. And we appreciated that. He was a pro. As much as you could be a pro, he was. And that's a big compliment to him. This isn't the last we've seen of Bobby.
Well, center field, raise your hand if you had Ben Gamble as the Indians' starting center fielder. Gamble gets the first nod with Bradley Zimmer being optioned to the alternate site. Terry Francona explained the thinking regarding center field.
We talked to Ben Gamble this morning and told him he had made the ball club. And we talked to Zim. And, you know, as you can imagine, these conversations, when you get down to the last 4 or 5 days, they get a lot harder because guys are that much closer. And we recognize that and we respect that. We want Zim to have a chance to be more consistent. And we think, you know, April can be a pretty cruel month in Ohio. And we want to give him the best chance to succeed. And for that, we think we need to send him to the alternate site. I think we knew coming in, as long as he was healthy, because he had some quad problems last year that kind of got in the way of him playing center. But he's a real reliable center fielder. You can put him anywhere in the outfield, and he's going to be real reliable. He controls the strike zone. He's had really good at-bats this spring. And he was kind of put to, you know, a lot of tests. He played in B games. You know, we put him in left, we put him in right. And he just sort of seemed to lean into everything. He didn't back away from anything or, you know, feel like he was getting the lesser part of the deal. I think reliable is a really good word, and he'll compete. He'll compete like crazy. He won't back down from anybody.
And how much will you use Rosario there? Is that just a work in progress right now?
Well, the plan is to put him out there, whether it's opening day or, I don't know how I got to work through that a little bit. Want to try to put him in the best position to succeed. So we'll get to that. We still, we'll go one day at a time here.
So Ben Gamel's 29. He's played parts of 5 seasons in the big leagues. Best years were 2017, 2018. Hit between 270 and 280. Another name to listen out for where the Indians are concerned, D. Gordon, 33 years old, and he was released today by the Cincinnati Reds, who happen to train out in Goodyear, Arizona, just like the Indians do. Now, he has over 4,000 Major League plate appearances, does D. Gordon, a 286 career hitter. Now, I know he played center, didn't go great, but he can play center, is a pretty good hitter, and also can play the middle infield. He is a free agent after being released by the Cincinnati Reds today. Again, that's D. Gordon, a name to listen out for. Indians might have some interest in. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, Jeff Risdon joins us. We're going to talk Browns football with Jeff Risdon. He has a unique take on the free agents that the Browns have signed. He has also done a 7-round mock draft for Brownswire.com. Jeff Risdon talking Browns after this time out here on Sports4CLE. Stay with us.
Tri-C is here for you. Now more than ever, you need a post-secondary education. So I encourage you to start your journey here at Tri-C. The majority of classes will take place online, but we've added a variety of formats to meet your learning needs, and we've taken many steps to keep you safe on campus. Whether you're ready to get started or your 4-year plans have changed, Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Well, hello, everyone. Let me tell you a little bit about Browns Football Insider. For only $3.99 a month, you can get text sent right to your phone each day from me, Dan Lobby, Scott Pasco, and Ellis Williams. In addition to that, you'll receive a Football Insider newsletter every day with special things from us, things that you won't see anywhere else on the site. You'll get breaking news, analysis, features, film breakdown, and things like that. Texting us directly gives you a great chance to cut through the clutter of Facebook, Twitter, other social media, and avoid the trolls. Also, it's the only way to get your questions on the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. So why should you sign up? Try a 14-day free trial. You can cancel at any time. All it takes is one text, but you won't want to cancel. We have hundreds of subscribers join us over the last year. They love it and have stayed with us. We're seeing the Football Insider community grow every week. And it's only $3.99 a month, which is less than 14 cents a day. What I like most about Football Insider is the opportunity to connect with you one-on-one and really communicate with you. So how can you become a Football Insider? You can click on cleveland.com/Browns, the blue banner at the top of the page. Or easier yet, text me at 216-208-3965. Again, that's 216-208-3965.
Sports4CLE continues. I'm Dave Bacon. We're going to turn our attention back to the Browns, and let's welcome in Jeff Risdon from Brownswire.com. Jeff, some craziness going in the first half of that first round so the Dolphins trade the 3rd pick. They go down to 12. There's some other picks involved. They also then trade the 12th pick to the Eagles for the 6th pick. How happy do you think the Browns are that they're not involved in this mess, because they have this is all kind of jockeying to find a quarterback in those first couple of picks?
It sure is, and it's great to be out of that business. I don't miss the days of having to chase down every mock draft and know every quarterback inside and out from the beginning to the end of the draft. It's a very refreshing change. It's nice to be out of the chaos and to let all that unfold without having to worry too much about it.
The interesting thing is, shortly after the 49ers made that pick to get up to 3, they tweeted out, Jimmy Garoppolo is still our quarterback, the same Jimmy Garoppolo that the Browns were trying to trade for way back when. I don't think there's any way. I think he could be on his move.
They added the actual context at the end for now, and I think that's pretty important. You're not trading up to the number 3 pick in the draft if you're not taking a quarterback. I think history has shown us that. Trey Lance, Justin Fields, we don't know who it's going to be yet, but it's pretty safe bet that it's going to be one of those two fellows. And with the Jets obviously taking Zach Wilson the way that they fawned over him at his pro day at BYU, the first 3 picks of the draft are pretty well set. So you know that there's going to be quarterbacks. And again, Browns don't have to worry about it because they got their quarterback, and that's a very, very nice place to be.
Hey, Browns fans are smiling about that as well. Let's turn our attention to the Browns. You wrote a really interesting piece today, I saw it, just about the free agents that Andrew Berry has signed. And the context was they're not necessarily chasing money, they're chasing championships and rings. Tell me the thought process to do that and how you arrived at that.
Yeah, just looking through the quotes of the guys when they've been introduced by the team, and it was Anthony Walker from the Colts. That's a team that was in the playoffs last year and has a very good chance to get back there again. And he said that he came to Cleveland because he wanted to win. Troy Hill, now he's obviously from Northeast Ohio, so there's the home balance there. He had better offers elsewhere. He wanted to play in Cleveland because he wants to win. John Johnson, one of the premier safeties in the market, had a much bigger offer from another team. Still don't know who that team is yet, but it's been out there that he turned down significant money to come to Cleveland because he wants to win a Super Bowl. That's the goal. These are guys who are looking for the best place that gives them the best chance to be a contributor to a winning team. That's not something that's been said about Cleveland in a long time. The free agents that were coming in here, I remember Kenny Britt coming in. It was pretty obvious from the first day that he was here that he was just collecting a paycheck. And that's been the case for a lot of people. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not an easy way to build a team. From the player standpoint, I get it. But from the team standpoint, you're always sort of just digging at it and trying to replace that guy the next year. These are guys that want to be part of something special. They see that in Cleveland. They feel it. There's energy about it. There's positivity. The national perception of the Cleveland Browns has changed. This is a place where guys want to be now because they want to win.
Yeah, and that culture seems to have changed, as quickly as Kevin Stefanski.
Winning cures a lot of sins, I tell you what.
Yeah, but Kevin Stefanski, first-year head coach, and now there's this winning culture that's built, and they did it in a year when they didn't have training camp or OTAs or any of that.
Yeah, that's a remarkable transformation, and it shows that Stefanski deserved his Coach of the Year honors. Shows that Andrew Berry and he and the rest of that front office are really building towards something special. They have a plan. They're sticking to it. And so far, so good. The plan seems to be working very nicely. And people around the league are taking notice of it. I think that's the ultimate sign of respect. You can be pretty happy about what you're doing as an organization. But when guys come from other successful organizations, Hill and Johnson both started in the Super Bowl 2 seasons ago. So they know what a good situation and team is like, and they see that in Cleveland. That can't be taken lightly.
Jeff Risdon from Brownswire.com. Let's take a look at this tweet. This came out yesterday, and you look at it, and it's a way too early Super Bowl prediction. Buccaneers and Browns. Yeah, I said it.
Yeah, I mean, God bless them for trying it. It's not out of the question that the Browns can make that run. They're certainly not the only AFC team. They probably shouldn't be considered the favorites. The Chiefs are still there. They're a very good football team. Buffalo is certainly formidable, but the Browns are right there. There's no reason that they can't be in the same conversation with those teams. Getting people healthy, getting people back, not having COVID scares throughout the season that rob you out of the lineup. I think it slowed down Myles Garrett a lot last year. He was the defensive player of the year through the first half of the season. I think he can get back to being that again. There's a lot of chance for this team to be really good. Remember, they're getting Grant Delpit back. Andrew Sadejo played a lot last year. He was supposed to be the fourth safety or the third safety, but Grant Delpit going down early, he was prominent in their plans. They never got to see him on the field. So this is a team that yes, they achieved something last year, but they are still in place, aiming forward. There's no reason to think that they can't make it. Again, it's crazy to speculate that yes, it could be the Cleveland Browns in the Super Bowl, especially at this point of the year. But they've done nothing but get better since the end of the season, and they were already pretty darn good last year. They got close last year. Remember, they were one weird call against the Chiefs and a late turnover away from beating the Chiefs in that game. Why not? Why not the Browns?
Do you think that is their roster that good the way it sits now, or are there areas that still need tweaking?
I mean, they obviously need to improve. I think the second cornerback spot outside of Denzel Ward, it's great that Greedy Williams is tweeting out that he's healthy and is going forward with the intention of playing, but I would like to see them get a little bit more insurance there. I think we've seen the injuries that have happened throughout the secondary are something that you can't be over-prepared for. It's something that you need to have, and I don't think they're there yet. They're in pretty good shape, though. I mean, a linebacker, I mean, it's not a position of emphasis on the team, but they certainly need a little bit more there. If they can rush the passer better, replacing Olivier Vernon has got to be a paramount thing going forward. They just don't have that guy on the roster yet. I know they signed Takk McKinley. He's really good as the number 3, which is sort of the role that Porter Gusson and Joe Jackson and Adrian Claiborne, who's no longer here, have played in the past year. That guy isn't on the team yet, so that's something that they need. I think if you get a balance to Myles Garrett on the opposite side of that offensive line, my goodness, or defensive line, you can attack the offensive line and create massive problems for the other team. And I think that's where they need to look yet, is to solidify that defense. The offense, get me Juice Landry back healthy 100%, get me Odell Beckham 100%. I think we're looking at a pretty darn good offense.
Before we take a break, last thing I'll ask you in this segment, are you a big Jadeveon Clowney fan? Do you think he's the guy that you could do that opposite Myles Garrett?
I would not. He would be good. He would not be my first choice. This is a guy who has 3 sacks in his last 21 games and also has 2 knee surgeries mixed in there. He's had, I believe it's 5 knee surgeries since he entered the NFL. It's great if you can get him, but if you're relying on him, that's probably a mistake.
Who is there another free agent, another veteran guy that you like maybe a little bit better? I know Dunlap signed.
And that's what I was going to say. Carlos Dunlap, unfortunately, he wound up in Seattle. It's not a great free agent market now, so you might have to if you get Clowney, that's great. Make sure you don't overpay for him, but you're still going to need to get somebody else in that draft that you can get for long term. And again, Clowney, where he's at now, he's not a long term solution. This would be a 1-year thing. Sort of the way that Takk McKinley is. So you still have an opening spot there, even if you do get him in, where you can get a guy that maybe it's a little bit more of a developmental guy or a player who was injured this past year. And there's a couple guys that fit that bill too.
All right, Jeff Risdon from Brownswire.com. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. On the other side of the break, we're going to take a look at who the Browns might be looking at in the draft. Jeff has done a 7-round mock draft. We'll look at some of the names that he thinks the Browns may be looking at. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
We're living in uncertain times, but you don't have to put your future on hold. At Tri-C, you can move ahead while staying safe and saving money. The majority of classes will take place online, but we've added a variety of formats to meet your learning needs, and we've taken many steps to keep you safe on campus. Whether you're ready to get started or your 4-year plans have changed, check out Tri-C's programs and resources, because Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Do you like Ohio State football? Would you like to get information from me, Doug Maurice, about Ohio State football without having to look at my face? We have got the plan for you. Become an Ohio State text subscriber through cleveland.com. You send a text, 614-350-3315. What do you get? 2, 3, 4 texts right in your phone every day about Ohio State football. Inside information, polls, voting, all kinds of things. You can be on our podcast. We take text subscriber questions on our Buckeye Talk podcast every week. If you really want to be involved with Ohio State football, in season or out of season, become an Ohio State text subscriber from cleveland.com. Send a text to 614-350-3315. 14-day free trial. What do you have to lose? $3.99 a month after that. 614-350-3315. I'll see you in your phone.
Welcome back to Sports for CLE. I'm Dave Bacon. We continue to talk Browns football with Jeff Risdon from Brownswire.com. Jeff has done a 7-round mock draft. Jeff, who did you have the Browns going at and getting number 26 overall?
Yeah, I went with Tulsa linebacker / edge Zaven Collins. He's a very popular pick in the mock draft community, and it's for good reason. He's a fantastic all-around player. He's a player that can play as an off-the-ball linebacker. He's got the athleticism. If you're looking at highlights of him, he has a 96-yard interception return last year where the opposing running back and wide receiver couldn't catch him. He can really scoot. He can move. He can play. He's also a pretty darn good pass rusher, and where I envision him, at least initially, is playing that old Olivier Vernon role as the edge opposite Myles Garrett, a stand-up pass rusher who can also, float out and break up screen passes, get out on exterior runs, and do things like that. He's sort of a versatile, do-it-all kind of player. Really good athlete, good, smart player, and you're going to see a lot of him in mock drafts at Cleveland, and I'll ride that tide.
When you look at him, he's a guy that he won a bunch of the Defensive College Player of the Year awards. There are a number of them that he took home. Is he somebody that you could see becoming that defensive edge guy full-time in the NFL? Is that kind of what your thought process is?
Yeah, one of the players that he gets compared to, he's not as crazed in terms of his speed, is Clay Matthews and what he did with the Packers. He's a little bit bigger than that, but they play that same style where you're a very aggressive edge. But remember when Clay moved off the ball for the Packers, again, Clay, not the Browns Clay Matthews, although he'd be great too if we could reincarnate him somehow and get him back out on the field. He's a guy who can do that. Clay played very well off the ball for Green Bay. It sort of took away from his pass rushing, but wound up being good at it as well. And Collins has already proven that he can do that. So that's the kind of player that you would be getting there.
We look a little bit deeper in a guy that if he's there at the second round would make a lot of sense is that cornerback that you like. Tell me a little bit about what you like from Asante Samuel Jr.
Yeah, you probably remember the name. Asante Samuel Sr. played in the league not all that long ago, was a very good ball hawk corner, played outside even though he's small, and his son is almost the exact same size and plays a very similar style. He's only 5'10", 185 pounds. Normally that cues you into the slot, but he played outside at Florida State and did okay. He's not the most dynamic athlete in the world, but you can tell watching him after 5 plays, this guy grew up around football. He understands the game. He knows how to position himself. He understands what the wide receivers are trying to do to him. Very anticipatory cornerback and a good enough athlete that he's going to be there in that second to third round mix. And you can play him right away, and you know that you're not going to have to worry about him. Very, very low growth curve for him. This is a guy who can step right in as a rookie and contribute. And if the Browns are looking, if they're not sold on Greedy Williams, or if they need that depth, if they want to replace Terrence Mitchell in that lineup, he's a great fit for that right away.
Yeah, when you look at Greedy Williams, you certainly hope he can continue. But, if you're looking at it strictly from a football perspective, you better have some insurance, if you will. Do you think that's kind of the thought process with we got to get a corner we can play out there pretty regularly?
Yeah, I do see that. Now Troy Hill, and Andrew Berry mentioned it in his introduction. Troy Hill can play outside. He's better inside, but he does have experience starting on the outside. So you have some flexibility there. And there are still some slot corners that are out there. on the free agent market, and it's also a decent draft class for him. But if you get a guy like Samuel in there, he can play inside, he can play outside. You can mix and match. You can find out where Hill is the most comfortable. You can find out where Samuel is the most comfortable, and move things around a little bit. I like that flexibility, and I think that Joe Woods and that defense would appreciate having moving pieces like that, where they're not necessarily telling the offense what they're going to do with who's lined up on who.
When you look at the Browns, let's go back to 26 for a minute. If somebody slides into the mid, upper 20s, someone that was projected to go early, could you see the Browns potentially flipping a third-round pick and moving up 5-6 spots to select somebody they really like?
Yeah, it's certainly possible. And a cornerback makes a lot of sense there. A guy like Jace Horn, Joe Horn, the former Saints wide receiver, his son, Jace, is a fantastic ball hawk, aggressive, swagger corner from South Carolina. He's good. He knows it, and he's going to let you know it. He's a very difficult guy to play against. He's a guy that would look very good in the dog pound. Fits that mentality very nicely. If he's still on the board, 20, 21, 22, they have to at least consider picking up the phone and calling and seeing what it would take to get a guy like him, because he's a very exciting player. I can't see him lasting all the way down to 26, but who knows? I mean, we saw 2 trades today, so you can't say nothing. You can't ever make definitive conclusions, but it's pretty certain that he's not going to be there. But again, if he slides, he's a guy to look at. Offensive line is not really a need for the Browns, but there's going to be a guy like Rashard Slater, who from Northwestern, really talented offensive tackle, but he had a limited viewing last year, wasn't as dominant in 2020 as he was in 2019 when he locked up Chase Young. Ohio State fans remember that very well. He's a guy that sometimes gets projected as high as number 6, and you can also see him in mock drafts as low as number 20. And there's a couple of other offensive linemen in there. Again, that's not really a need for the Browns, but if they want to, add on to the strength of the team there, that's certainly a possibility too.
Any edge rushers that if you think they slide into that 20, 21, 22 range, the Browns may say, man, we should go up and get him?
It's a very interesting edge class because all of the guys, you have questions about them. Azeez Ojulari out of Georgia is my personal favorite. I would love to see him in Cleveland as well. He'd be a great fit at number 26, and he could go higher than that. He didn't test all that well. He doesn't play the run all that well, so there's some warts there with him. A guy like Jason Owa at Penn State, phenomenal athlete. One of those guys that you want him to be the first guy coming off the bus and showing the other team. He didn't get a sack in his entire college career. He's only been playing football for like 5 years. Just doesn't understand how to play football yet. The potential is certainly there for him to be a great impact player, but he hasn't been that yet. So you're taking a big risk there. He's another guy that could be gone at 20. He could be there at 26. He could be there at 32. You just don't know. And then there's guys after that. A guy like Ronnie Perkins out of Oklahoma, really good, strong, power to speed player. Carries himself the way Montez Sweat did in that draft class. And Montez Sweat has become a very good player. But boy, his athletic testing was just really not impressive at all. And that probably rules him out of the first round. But they'll have some options there. Again, that's one of the reasons why I sort of centered on Collins, because he can do that as part of his bag of tricks, but it's not necessarily the only thing that he can do.
Well, and the other thing is the Browns, front office seems to value versatility, especially on the defensive side of the ball. If you look at, what John Johnson can do, what Little can do, or Troy Hill rather can do, that's something they've been looking for.
Yeah, and you can have Grant Delpit. He can play in the box as a linebacker. He can be your edge safety, the way that we all hoped they would have used Jabril Peppers back in the day. There is definite flexibility and malleability with it. And even with a guy like Jacob Phillips, I think they realized last year that he can probably rush the passer a little bit better than they expected. He's going to be a sub-package player most likely, but again, the ability to move him around, he can play inside. If you go to 3 linebackers on occasion, he can be either 1, 2, or 3 in that grouping. Yeah, the positional versatility is very important. I think they're looking for that on the defensive line too. Sheldon Richardson, Myles Garrett. Those guys can slide around a little bit and play inside. They can play outside. It gives Woods a lot of options to mix and match with.
Jeff Risdon, Brownswire.com. We're going to step aside, take one more time out. On the other side of the break, we'll ask Jeff some guys to keep your ear out for day 2, 3, a little bit deeper into the draft. Some targets that the Browns might have later in the draft. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Tri-C is here for you. Now more than ever, you need a post-secondary education. So I encourage you to start your journey here at Tri-C. The majority of classes will take place online, but we've added a variety of formats to meet your learning needs, and we've taken many steps to keep you safe on campus. Whether you're ready to get started or your four-year plans have changed, Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Well, hello, everyone. Let me tell you a little bit about Browns Football Insider. For only $3.99 a month, you can get text sent right to your phone each day from me, Dan Lobby, Scott Pasco, and Ellis Williams. In addition to that, you'll receive a Football Insider newsletter every day with special things from us, things that you won't see anywhere else on the site. You'll get breaking news, analysis, features, film breakdown, and things like that. Texting us directly gives you a great chance to cut through the clutter of Facebook, Twitter, other social media, and avoid the trolls. Also, it's the only way to get your questions on the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. So why should you sign up? Try a 14-day free trial. You can cancel at any time. All it takes is one text, but you won't want to cancel. We have hundreds of subscribers join us over the last year. They love it and have stayed with us. We're seeing the Football Insider community grow every week. And it's only $3.99 a month, which is less than 14 cents a day. What I like most about Football Insider is the opportunity to connect with you one-on-one and really communicate with you. So how can you become a Football Insider? You can click on cleveland.com/Browns, the blue banner at the top of the page. Or easier yet, text me at 216-208-3965. Again, that's 216-208-3965.
Sports4CLE continues. I'm Dave Bacon. We continue talking Browns and a look at the upcoming draft with Jeff Risdon from Brownswire.com. Jeff, who are some names to listen out for a little bit later in the draft? Some guys that profile as guys that might fit what the Browns are looking for.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different ways you can go with it. I like to look at the linebackers. I think that's sort of the area where they're going to attack that position. A guy like Jabril Cox out of LSU is certainly a guy to know. He sort of took over for where Jacob Phillips was at LSU. He came from North Dakota State, was an all everything player at the FCS level, jumped up to LSU and proved that he could do it. He's a possible second-round pick. He can cover, he can run, he can rush the passer, he can tackle a little bit. If they're looking there, if they want to go a little bit deeper, Purdue has a linebacker named Derek Barnes, had a very impressive pro day this week, did very well for himself at the Senior Bowl, was a guy that showed that he could turn and run in coverage better than expected. He's a former defensive end. He played that edge position at Purdue that produced the likes of Ryan Kerrigan and Cliff Averill. Then he became an off-ball linebacker and got better all the year. So he's a guy that you're looking at in the fourth or fifth rounds. Might have tested up a little bit higher than that, but that's the name to look at there at linebacker. There's a ton of corners later in the draft and a ton of wide receivers. If you're looking for a slot receiver, a guy who can come in and be the quicker than fast guy, there's certainly some. Jalen Darden out of North Texas is a personal favorite. The guy is instantly open all the time. He's like a joystick. You just watch him. He's making moves that guys simply can't keep up with. Very productive guy. He also happens to be fast, and he can return kicks too. And we're still not sure what's going to go on with the kick return situation in Cleveland. So that versatility again there, being able to do more than one thing, will help a guy like Darden. A couple of cornerbacks that I like later. There's one out of Stanford, Paulson Adebo. At this time last year, when people were starting to do their too early mock drafts, he was the guy that was listed in the first round quite a bit. He didn't play, and he sort of fell out of sight, out of mind. This is a guy who is probably a top 50, top 75 talent. You might be able to get him a little bit later. A tall, lanky corner, smart guy, good press, good off player, has some ball skills and can tackle as well. So He's another one to look at. There's a ton of defensive linemen late. It's not the greatest class for defensive line, but a guy like Tyler Shelvin out of LSU. There's a couple guys out of other guys out of the SEC. I know Ohio State fans know Tommy Togiai very well. He's a guy that can certainly fit in and do some things there. Certainly a lot of names to look at late. Another guy that I like as a wide receiver, and I put him in my mock draft right next to Barnes. It plays with the rivalry, Barnes being at Purdue. Whop Philor out of Indiana. I know they're rivals, but they make very nice teammates in Cleveland too. This is a guy, all he did for Indiana was make plays no matter who was throwing the ball to him, no matter where he was on the field. He can win short, he can win long, he can win over the middle. Very tough, mentally strong player. So that's another guy that I really like in probably the 4th or 5th round.
I noticed the 7th round, you had the Browns taking a young quarterback, and I like that thought process. I think that's probably something they're going to look at because I don't think you're going to extend Case Keenum, at least not at the money that he's making as a backup cornerback for very long. Who are some young guys late that you look at as a developmental type quarterback? Yeah, and in this particular incarnation, I put in KJ Costello from Mississippi State. Most people remember him probably from Stanford, where he started for 3 years. He went and joined Mike Leach in the spray and pray offense at Mississippi State and did okay. He's a very accurate guy. He's a very smart guy, cerebral passer. He doesn't have the strongest arm, and he's not a great athlete. Not necessarily the greatest fit, but he's a guy who can keep the trains running on time. And we've seen in Kevin Stefanski's offense, that's a very important attribute. He doesn't have the outside the pocket or outside the box creativity that Baker has shown and thrives with. But that's a guy to look at. There's a few guys. Kellen Mond from Texas A&M. Probably going to go a little bit earlier than that. In fact, you're going to probably start seeing him in the 2nd or 3rd round of some mock drafts. That's a little rich for my blood, but he's an intriguing guy who can do some things. He has to work on the accuracy and making the proper read at the proper time. Another one to consider is Ian Book from Notre Dame. I put him in a previous incarnation. He is a lot like Baker. He just isn't as accurate. But again, a guy who plays with his attitude and his heart on his sleeve. He's got some swagger. He's got some mobility. He can throw while he's on the move. He just doesn't always happen to see the defense might be in the way of where he's throwing the ball. So coachable mistakes are there with him, but you're going to need the coaching with him. But he's another guy that you can get in late on day 3 as a developmental prospect at quarterback. And they do need one. They don't have a number 3 quarterback right now of any consequence. So it is a need on the team. Do they draft it? We'll see. But it is something that you definitely have to keep an eye on. And they will certainly add another quarterback at some point. And I don't think they're going to pay for one. They don't like to pay for depth. So a cheap late draft pick is probably the way to go there. Last thing I'll ask you before I let you go. If they're looking for a speed receiver that can stretch the field, is there anybody, third roundish, maybe middle rounds that you like that can open up the defense? I got a good one for you today, and he's a teammate of Donovan Peoples-Jones at Michigan, Nico Collins. He had his pro day today at Michigan. 6'4", 215, ran a 4.4 240 with a sub 1.6 10-yard split. That means he's getting out of the blocks fast. He's a big hombre. He is a tough, contested catch type of guy. He's fairly straight line in his speed. He's not a guy who's going to shake you and juke you. But my goodness, he can fly down the outside of the field. He can make catches over people, sort of in the way that Kenny Golladay did for the Detroit Lions, a guy who wouldn't necessarily get open, but was able to come down with the big catch like that. He's really, really good at that. Throw Tylan Wallace from Oklahoma State in there, another player that I really like, had really good film in 2018, got hurt in 2019, came back this past year, didn't have good quarterback play at all, was still very productive. He's good in the red zone as well as working outside the numbers, and he's probably a 3rd round pick too. Another guy to keep an eye on. Jeff Risdon, Brownswire.com. Great stuff. Hopefully we can get you to join us again here on Sports4CLE. Jeff, appreciate the time.
Absolutely.
Great insight. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks.
All right, Jeff Risdon from Brownswire.com giving us some names to listen out for as the NFL draft closes in. That'll do it for us on Sports4CLE. We will see you again Monday, 4 o'clock. Voicemail of Truth and Reason, 216-200-6650. The Les Levine voicemail of Truth and Reason, 216-200-6650. Also, you can get a hold of us at sports4cle@gmail.com. Stay safe, everybody. Have a great weekend. We will see you again Monday at 4 o'clock right here on Sports4CLE.